Mark this date on your calendar, August 1st, 2024, because according to the legendary trader Tom Gentile, you'll need to act before that date if you want to prepare for the coming AI panic. Tom is a millionaire trader who began using computer algorithms in the 1990s to trade the markets. A 1994 article by the Wall Street Journal even wrote about how he was using one of America's first wireless trading devices to make money. And he went on to develop stock picking systems that have helped him identify hundreds of opportunities to make double and triple digit gains in a matter of days. He even sold one of those programs to a big Wall Street firm for a cool $20 million. More importantly, Tom Gentile predicted the rise of artificial intelligence more than 5 years ago, and he recommended several top AI stocks. Anyone who listened to him had the chance to turn $10,000 into as much as almost $35,000 in shares of Meta, $42,600 in shares of Microsoft, and more than $320,000 in shares of Nvidia. Today, he's stepping forward with an urgent warning. In this exclusive interview, he'll explain why he believes we're about to see a historic panic and show you exactly how to prepare. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Monning, and I'm here to interview legendary trader Tom Gentile. You know, these are very strange times for investors. We're in the midst of a huge boom in artificial intelligence. Some folks are scrambling to get exposure at any cost because they believe AI will be bigger than the internet. On the other hand, some experts are warning this is just another bubble that's ready to pop. And they're predicting this boom will end in tears, just like the dot-com bust in 2000. Who's right? Should you buy AI stocks like Nvidia, or is it too late? Well, we're here today to get answers from Tom Gentile, a millionaire trader who began using computer algorithms in the 1990s to trade the markets and went on to develop incredibly profitable stock picking systems. Systems that have helped him identify hundreds of opportunities to pocket double and triple digit gains, all in a matter of days. You're seeing a snapshot of his track record on your screen. He found these opportunities in all kinds of market environments. Bull market, bear market, it didn't matter. I've never seen anything like this. Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Kim, my pleasure.
Well, you know, most people are so excited about AI stocks these days, but we're here today because you're actually predicting a major panic, and you believe most people will be blindsided by what's coming. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. But hey, don't get me wrong. Yes, I do believe artificial intelligence will be the technology of the century, and I also believe it's going to change everything and turn entire industries upside down. And yes, it will mint countless millionaires, just like the internet did. But I'm afraid most everyday folks are going to walk away from this AI boom empty-handed. Some might even lose a big chunk of their life savings simply because they don't understand what's really happening.
Okay, so what are we missing here? Tell us.
Okay, well, I promise I'm going to explain everything today because I'm expecting a historic panic like we haven't seen in decades. Most people won't see it coming. And if you don't prepare now, you could spend the next years, even decades, trying to catch up. And I say this because something very similar happened about 25 years ago during the dot-com boom. And I believe a similar panic is imminent. Kim, that's why I accepted your invitation for this interview. I'm here today to share my research with everyone because if you know what to do, you can actually walk away from this coming panic with a huge windfall.
So it's not all doom and gloom. There's actually an opportunity for us?
Absolutely. As a trader, I'm always looking for ways to make money no matter what's happening in the markets. That's what the best of the best do. In fact, all the legendary investors on Wall Street are already preparing for this upcoming AI panic. Now, Kim, have you ever heard of billionaire David Tepper?
The name sounds familiar.
You probably heard his name in the media because Forbes has called him the greatest hedge fund manager of his generation. Over the past 3 years, his fund has outperformed the S&P by nearly 17%. And he's already invested $2.6 billion in preparation for this AI panic. Wow. Now, he's not alone. Billionaire Bill Ackman has invested $1.8 billion. Now, Bill's a legendary trader who turned $27 million into $2.6 billion in as little over a month in what the New York Times called the single best trade of all time. Now, he's putting more than $1 billion of his own money on the line. Warren Buffett, who many consider the best investor ever, has invested even more, $159 billion with a B.
Wow, $159 billion. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's almost half his money. Think about that. And that's just a small snapshot. Ray Dalio, the founder of the world's largest hedge fund, legendary trader Paul Tudor Jones, and billionaire Stanley Druckenmiller, they're all preparing for this upcoming AI panic. So what does this tell you, Kim?
Well, those are some heavy hitters for sure. That tells me we should definitely pay attention. I mean, they probably know something we don't.
Yeah, and I believe they're preparing now because they see the same thing I see, that a historic panic is imminent. In fact, this is so urgent that I asked the production team to add this date on the screen, August 1st, 2024. And in the next few minutes, I'll explain why I believe we need to act before that date. I'll reveal all the details and explain how I see this panic playing out. And I'll tell you precisely when to buy and when to sell AI stocks, because timing will be critical. How's that sound?
Well, that sounds great. I can't wait to hear the details. And Tom, I'm so glad that you're here with us today because you began using computers to find market patterns back in the 1990s. In fact, you helped usher in the era of online trading when you began using one of America's first wireless trading devices in the 90s. The Wall Street Journal even wrote an article about how you used this tool to double your money in just 4 months. After that, you went on to create several proprietary software trading programs. And with the help of these stock picking systems, you've given everyday folks who follow your work a total of 493 chances to pocket double and triple digit gains, which is unheard of. You essentially built an empire from your trading tools and even sold one of those programs to a big Wall Street firm for a cool $20 million. Later, that firm was acquired by the largest publicly traded brokerage business in the US. After seeing your track record, I can't really blame them for paying $20 million to buy just one of your programs. But you know what really made you a legend in the investment world was your ability to see big market moving events before anyone else. For example, in early 2013, Bitcoin was trading for just $13. Nobody wanted to buy it because most people thought it was just some magic internet money. While the media was calling it a Ponzi scheme and predicting its collapse, you actually used your computer skills to mine Bitcoin from your garage. And you took advantage of that new technology to become a crypto millionaire. In fact, you made so much money that you donated $5 million of your profits to charity. What an incredible story. And then in 2020, something even more incredible happened. In February of 2020, while Fauci was telling Americans that the risk of a pandemic was, and I quote, minuscule, you had a different message for your readers, didn't you?
Yeah, I was warning them to prepare for a collapse.
Yes, and I don't know how you did this, Tom, but take a look at this chart. You alerted your readers right at the precise peak of the market, and you wrote, as the coronavirus continues its rapid spread, it could pull stocks in world markets down drastically. You also predicted that cruise lines would get destroyed with lockdowns and travel restrictions. And you recommended a trade that was designed to profit if shares of Carnival Corp crashed. That very next day, the stock market began to collapse in what turned out to be the quickest crash in history. Carnival shareholders lost as much as 85% of their money, and to this date, still haven't recovered. But anyone who followed your recommendation had a chance to turn $1,000 into as much as $20,000 in less than 2 months. Unbelievable. But you know, the story gets better, because after the COVID crash, while everyone was panicking, you made another prediction that sounded, and how can I say this?
Well, it sounded kind of insane.
Yes, insane. That is definitely the word I was looking for. It really did.
Yeah, I mean, most people thought I was nuts, Kim.
Yeah, well, in early April 2020, while legendary investor Ray Dalio was predicting an economic depression and warning that the crisis would be worse than 2008, you wrote, and I quote, investors are missing some of the best trading opportunities they could see in their lifetimes, stocks that are about to soar. And you recommended shares of Google, Apple, and Tesla. Take a look at what happened. Google jumped as high as 188%. Apple jumped as high as 236%. And Tesla skyrocketed an incredible 1,181%. These were all market-beating returns. So Tom, I've got to ask you, do you have a crystal ball? How did you know? Even legends like Ray Dalio couldn't see the market bottom.
Well, Kim, as you're about to see, my methods are all 100% scientific. It's all based on data. My software can crunch millions of data points, helping me determine when to buy and when to sell. And right now, it's flashing a critical signal related to AI stocks.
You're talking about this coming AI panic.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about that, because you also saw the rise of AI years before the mainstream media. In January 2019, when no one was talking about AI, you picked Nvidia and predicted shares would explode higher because the company was making, and I quote, a chip that handles all of AI processing. Anyone who listened to you had a chance to turn $1,000 into more than $32,000. That same day, you also recommended two other stocks that turned out to be leaders in AI applications today. Facebook has jumped as high as 249%, and Microsoft has jumped 326%. So, Tom, this AI boom has been great for your readers because you gave them a chance to get into the trend very early. But now you're saying that we all need to prepare for an imminent AI panic. Earlier, you said that you lived through a similar panic in the late 90s with internet stocks. I'm guessing you're talking about the tech bubble of 2000, right? So are you here to tell everyone to just sell all their AI stocks ahead of this panic and run for the exits?
Kim, who said anything about selling? That's not the kind of panic I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a historic buying panic, similar to what we saw with internet stocks in the late 90s.
Okay, wait a minute. So you're talking about a buying frenzy?
Yeah, buying panic. And in just a few minutes, I'll even give away a list with the names of my top 10 AI stocks. And this includes a company that's building a new AI chip that, according to Forbes, is poised to turbocharge the field of AI. A company that could become the next Nvidia. And then there's another company that's working on the next generation of ChatGPT, just to mention a few.
Wow, that sounds great. I wasn't expecting this. It's interesting that you're actually predicting a buying panic.
Yeah, now this is actually very common when it comes to new tech breakthroughs. So when investors see a new innovation that has the potential to change everything, they throw caution to the wind and they just start buying these tech stocks like there's no tomorrow. No matter how high they go, they just keep buying them. For example, we saw that kind of buying frenzy in the 1920s.
What was the tech breakthrough back then?
Well, it was called electricity. Now, right after World War I, we saw widespread access to electricity in America for the first time ever, and it was a game changer. And that's when we got major tech inventions like radios, refrigerators, washing machines, TVs, and it really helped trigger a massive boom.
I get it. You're talking about the so-called Roaring 20s.
Exactly. That decade alone, the stock market increased sixfold. And we're talking about shares of companies like General Electric, which jumped even higher, almost 1,300%. General Motors went up about tenfold. Shares of Radio Corporation skyrocketed 200-fold, and we saw something similar when the internet came along. Now, once the masses believed that the internet would change everything, we saw that mad rush into internet stocks, pushing shares higher than anyone could have ever imagined.
Oh yeah, I remember how things got pretty wild in 1999. But Tom, haven't we already seen a buying frenzy with many of these AI stocks? I mean, just over the past year alone, shares of Nvidia have more than doubled. And that's why I've heard a lot of people saying that the AI stocks are in a bubble ready to pop. Honestly, it feels like we missed the boat already.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame you for thinking like that. And it's true, Nvidia has already gone up a lot. But I believe that this is just the initial phase of this AI boom. I'm predicting we'll soon enter the final phase of the boom, and that's when the biggest gains are going to actually happen. And I say that because that's exactly what happened during the dot-com boom. For example, take a look at this. From 1995 to the end of 1998, shares of Qualcomm jumped almost 300%. Now, by any standard, that's a great return. So I'm sure a lot of people thought it was too late to invest in Qualcomm. But take a look at what happened when the final phase of the boom kicked in. Even though shares had already gone up almost 300%, in 1999 alone, it jumped an additional 1,200%.
Wow. Shares went straight up that year.
Yeah, and that's what happens in the last phase of a boom. Once the buying panic begins, shares go parabolic. We saw something similar with shares of ViaV Solutions. From 1995 to late 1998, shares of that stock jumped more than 800%. Sounds like it was too late to get in at that time, doesn't it, Kim?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but watch what happened once the buying panic actually began. The following year, the shares jumped an additional 2,472%, and things really get wild in that last phase of the boom. So, what we've seen so far in AI stocks is nothing compared to what I believe is still coming. Look at this other example. From 1995 again to late 1998, shares of Steel Connect jumped almost 900%. Now, Kim, after a 900% move, You're probably thinking there's no way the stock can go any higher, right?
Right, 900%. That's pretty extreme.
Yeah, well, take a look. Once again, the buying panic, when it began, shares skyrocketed an additional 2,700%. So, like I said before, most of the gains happened in the last phase of the boom. We saw this pattern over and over and over again in the late 1990s. Shares of Cisco initially jumped 172%, but once the buying panic began, it jumped even higher, an additional 513%.
Wow.
How about Best Buy? Well, it initially jumped 56%, only to skyrocket an additional 855% during the buying panic. Same thing with Applied Materials. Initially jumped 162%, and then skyrocketed more than 700% in the last phase of the boom. Kim, do you see the pattern here?
Oh, absolutely. I can see now why you're saying the gains could be even bigger in the coming last phase of this AI boom. But Tom, aren't some of these AI stocks already too expensive?
Well, if you compare it to the dot-com boom, they're not. The entire NASDAQ could actually double from here, and we still would not reach the crazy valuations that we saw at the peak of the internet frenzy in 2000.
So I guess what you're saying is that there's more upside potential and that AI is not a bubble ready to pop?
No, not yet. I still believe there's a lot more upside before this party's over. And in the last phase of the boom, things tend to get a lot crazier than what we've seen so far. In 1999, for example, I was running a trading education business where I was teaching people how to trade. Now, my team and I were going all across the U.S. Thousands of people showed up at our live events. We had packed houses in Vegas, L.A., New York, Chicago, and it was a crazy time then because everyone wanted to get rich with tech stocks. Everyone wanted to learn how to trade. And I remember high school kids were becoming day traders out of the blue. Everyone from taxi drivers to bodega operators were talking about internet stocks.
So it was a true mania?
It really was true mania. And we're not seeing anything like that right now with AI stocks because back in the late 1990s, we also had a huge IPO boom around internet stocks. Companies with zero profits. They're just slapping .com at the end of their names. Going public, watching their stock skyrocket. It was insane.
Oh, yeah. And we're not seeing an IPO boom right now?
No, not yet. Last year, we only had 154 IPOs on the U.S. stock market. That was actually a 15% drop compared to the previous year. That's nothing compared to what happened during the internet frenzy in 1999 and in 2000 when more than 600 companies went public. And by the way, most of those internet companies going public were not even profitable. I mean, I'm telling you, Kim, we've just seen the initial phase of the AI boom. It's like being in the early innings of a ball game. Yeah. But the biggest gains, well, they're yet to come. And as we head into 2025, we could see gains similar to what we saw in 1999, when certain tech stocks jumped 1,300%, 2,472%, and 2,700% in a single year. But there's one big difference this time.
And what's that?
I think the gains can happen even faster because AI is advancing much faster than the internet. The internet took years to evolve from dial-up modems to the age of broadband. AI is accelerating at an unprecedented speed. You see, throughout history, computational power has doubled every 2 years. It's something known as Moore's Law, but it looks like AI broke that law. Just listen to what Elon Musk said recently. I've never seen any technology advance faster than this. AI appears to be increasing by a factor of 10 every 6 months. We really are at the edge of one of the biggest tech revolutions that has ever existed. And that's why I believe these massive gains could happen faster than anyone can imagine. We've never seen a technology evolve like this.
Okay, that makes some sense. But Tom, there's one thing that I still don't understand. You're predicting a massive buying panic and huge gains from AI stocks. So why did you say earlier that most folks could walk away from this coming boom empty-handed?
Well, that's a great question. And it's actually the main reason I had to be here today. See, I predict most everyday folks will actually lose money during the coming AI boom, simply because they won't know how to trade this upcoming panic. Now, that's exactly what happened during the dot-com boom in the late 90s. And yeah, it was a historic boom that drove many stocks higher than anyone thought possible. And yet, most people ended up losing a lot of money during that boom, all because of wrong timing. Take a look at some of the examples I showed earlier. Yes, VFV Solutions jumped 42,000% during the boom, But once the party was over, it went right back to where it was in the blink of an eye. Kim, how many people do you think bought at the bottom and sold at the absolute peak?
If I had to guess, probably no one.
Yeah, nobody. You would have had to be the luckiest person in the world to have that kind of timing. Now, look at Cisco, for example. It jumped more than 85,000% in the 1990s. But once the party was over, it came crashing down. And even now, this is 25 years later, the stock is still underwater.
Wow. So anyone who had the wrong timing and bought shares close to the top in 2000, they're still down even more than 2 decades later. That's brutal.
Yeah, that's 2 lost decades that you'll never get back.
Right.
And that's why I said earlier, if you don't know how to play this coming AI buying panic, you could end up losing your shirt. And you might spend years, even decades, trying to catch up. Some companies in the late 90s didn't even make it. So you could actually lose all your money if you buy the wrong AI stock. Look at Webvan, for example. This thing went public in the late 90s, even though it didn't have a profit. 2 years later, stock was worthless. Shareholders, they got wiped out.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people lost their shirts in that dot-com crash. All right, Tom, so let's just take a step back here and let me recap everything we've discussed so far. You're predicting that we're going to see a massive buying panic that will drive many AI stocks higher than anyone can imagine, but that boom will ultimately end in tears for many folks because they won't know how to trade this boom and bust cycle. Is that right?
Right. And this isn't just a wild guess. I'm making this prediction because that same thing has happened over and over and over again throughout history. Every buying panic eventually ends in tears because all these booms end the same way, with a big crash. Happened in the Roaring 20s. It happened in Japan in the 1980s. It happened in U.S. home prices in 2008. It happened in shares of the South Sea Company in 1720. It happened with tulip bulbs in Holland during the early 1600s. Kim, you can see why I'm saying that if you don't know how to time these things, you could actually lose money.
Oh, yes, I can. Absolutely. So when do you think this crash is happening?
Well, before I give you an answer, I want to emphasize that we actually have a big opportunity in front of us right now. So remember I predicted we're going to see a massive boom before the final crash?
Yes.
So we still have one of those last chances to profit from this AI boom. But I'm not recommending you buy and hold AI stocks.
Okay, hold on. You're not recommending we buy and hold any AI stocks. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, you did. So if you take one thing from this interview, this is it. Do not buy and hold any AI stock. Because most folks who got hurt during the dot-com boom were just buying and holding. That's not what I'm recommending. You see, here's something that most people don't know, Kim. JP Morgan did a study where they looked at the last 20 years of gains in the stock market, and they discovered something that was truly shocking. Turns out that in over a 20-year period, most of the gains happened in just 30 days. Meaning, if you're buying stocks outside of these periods, chances are the stock's going to be moving sideways or going through a correction. So let me show you some examples with some of these popular AI stocks. As you can see here, Nvidia spent months going nowhere, only to explode much higher in just a few days. Microsoft spent months going nowhere. Then it exploded higher in just a few days. Google, same thing, months in no man's land, only to skyrocket in just a few days. My point here is this. When you buy and hold these AI stocks, you could spend months watching shares go nowhere or go through a correction. But what if you could avoid those days when the stock's doing nothing or going down, and only hold the stocks during good days when they're going up?
Well, that sounds amazing. I think that would be every investor's dream come true, but I just don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, most people will tell you it's not possible. But I've been analyzing market patterns for over 30 years. And during that time, I've discovered a strange cycle that helps me determine when to buy and sell these AI stocks based on a 90% historical success rate.
90%. Tom, I've got to be honest with you. This all sounds a bit too good to be true. So I really hope that you brought some proof for us.
I know. It does sound crazy, but I'll show you everything right now so you can see it for yourself.
Okay.
But Kim, just imagine for a second. What if you knew in 9 out of the last 10 years that shares of Nvidia skyrocketed between January 11th and February 16th? You think having that kind of intel would give you an edge in the market?
Okay, so wait, you're saying that looking at the last decade, shares of Nvidia almost always go up between January 11th and February 16th?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Now, Kim, if shares went up 90% of the time during those days, What are the chances it's going to happen again? I'm willing to bet money on it, and here's the key. It's not just Nvidia. I found this profit cycle on many other AI stocks, and it helps me find opportunities to buy and sell them months in advance. And that's what I want to share with everyone today.
Okay, well, I'm definitely intrigued. If that's really true, I think it would make investing a whole lot easier. So let's go ahead and get into the details. How did you discover this cycle, and how does it work?
Okay, so when I was in my early 20s, I had a major breakthrough when I was working as a forklift driver, I know, at the world's largest home improvement retailer. Now today they have over 2,300 stores across North America, but this was back in the 80s. This massive company was just getting started. In fact, they only had about 4 stores back then. The managers at my store didn't even know how to track inventory. And even though my main job was to stock shelves, I was always a computer nerd. I even taught myself how to code when I was just a teenager. So when I saw that they had no clue how to track inventory, I helped them build a basic software program that analyzed customers' spending habits and seasonal buying patterns. And so they used that data to predict future demand. So you'd simply press a button and the management team would know exactly what to order before the store ran out of stock.
And did it work?
Yeah, it was a big success, and it got me promoted to the IT department. So
Wow.
I knew my future was not going to be at a home improvement store. I had another passion. It was the stock market. My dream was to work on Wall Street. So in the 90s, I went to work on the American Stock Exchange. And a few years later, I started my own trading business. So like you mentioned before, we created a bunch of proprietary software programs looking for unusual patterns in the market. So I like to think of those days as the early days of artificial intelligence, because today, most of these advanced forms of AI are called neural networks. And all they do is analyze data to find patterns. That's exactly what I was doing back then. So we developed several of these trading systems, even sold one of them for $20 million. But there was one proprietary system that I never sold because I just thought it was too powerful. I call it the money calendar because it tells me the days when I should target certain stocks based on that historical profit cycle. So it helps me identify when to buy and sell hundreds of stocks based on a 90% historical success rate.
And how does it work?
Okay, well, it crunches through a minimum of 10 years of daily stock transactions, and what it's looking for are short-term cycles that have repeated themselves for at least 9 of the last 10 years. Let me show you some historical examples. So take a look at this. Although these aren't official recommendations, this is an actual screenshot of the software when the money calendar flagged an opportunity to buy Nvidia on January 11th. Can you see those dates right there, Kim?
Yes, it says from January 11th to February 16th.
Right, that's the software showing that shares of Nvidia went up between January 11th and February 16th. As you can see in those bar charts, turns out Nvidia went up between January 11th and February 16th almost every year for the past 10 years. Went up 90% of the time during that period.
So did it go up again?
Well, in early January, some analysts were actually telling folks to avoid Nvidia. Now, take a look at this article, for example. It predicted Nvidia was a bubble that would soon pop. So, if you're just reading articles like that, you probably conclude that you should stay away from Nvidia. But according to my calendar, it was actually a great time to invest in Nvidia because it had a 90% historical success rate during that period. So, had you followed the dates on the calendar and bought shares of Nvidia on January 11th and sold them on February 16th, you could have made 32% in a little more than a month. So had you invested $10,000 on this trade, you could have pocketed $3,200 in about a month. Kim, the average annual return on Nvidia over the last 20 years is 32%.
So on average, that's what you could expect to make from Nvidia in a year, 32%?
Correct. But you could have made that same gain in about a month. That's what I love about this money counter strategy. It can help you accelerate your gains. When you know dates in advance, it can give you an edge in the market because you can get in right before the big rally and get out before the correction. So you don't leave your money exposed to that long-term volatility.
That's very impressive, Tom. But let me ask you this. Are you saying that we should only buy Nvidia from January 11th to February 16th?
Absolutely not. The money counter has identified several of these short-term profit cycles for Nvidia throughout the year. Now, in each of those, the historical success was at least 90% during that time period. For example, the calendar flagged another one of those cycles in Nvidia in May. Take a look. Turns out Nvidia went up every single year for the past decade between May 23rd and June 20th. So Kim, If you knew that data in advance, what would you be doing on May 23rd?
Well, with that kind of track record, I mean, it went up every year during those dates for 10 consecutive years. Uh, I'd say you'd buy shares of Nvidia, right? Buy it on May 23rd and sell it on June 20th.
Exactly. Now, when you follow the dates on the money counter, you could make quick gains because you're following a pattern that's repeated itself over and over again for an entire decade. Take a look. Immediately after that date, Nvidia began an incredible rally. And had you invest $10,000 following the calendar, you'd have pocketed almost $4,300 in less than a month.
Nice. I think everyone watching this would love to have the chance to make that kind of extra money that quickly, too, especially when there's such a high historical success rate. But Tom, wouldn't it be better to just buy and hold Nvidia?
Not necessarily. Remember, research shows that most of these gains happen in just a few days. So if you're just buying and holding, you're going to spend a lot of time just watching shares go nowhere or even worse than a correction. In fact, take a look at this. Had you bought shares of Nvidia outside of the period I just showed you, you actually would have spent months watching the stock go up and down and really not going anywhere.
So buy and hold investors were just watching the stock move sideways and not making any money. So the idea here is to avoid those periods and try to buy shares just before a major run?
Absolutely. In fact, look at October 26th on the chart because the money counter flagged another one of those cycles in October. As you can see here, shares of Nvidia went up between October 26th and November 17th in 9 of the past 10 years. Right on schedule, these shares began to rally on October 26th. So again, had you followed the calendar, you could have walked away with a little over $2,200, even though shares were going nowhere at that time.
Wow, I think I'm starting to understand why this is the one software you said you'd never sell. Do you have a patent on it?
Absolutely not. Now, Kim, I don't know if you know this, but when you actually file a patent, you have to go to the patent officer with the details behind your system. I don't trust the U.S. government with that kind of information. I mean, anyone can hack into anyone's system and steal my secret code. And I know it sounds like I'm being paranoid, but I've just invested too many resources into this system. I spent decades building it. Kim, I even hired a couple of computer geniuses to help me run it. Now, this included an award-winning rocket scientist who developed flight navigation systems for NASA, a former chief engineer of defense contractor Raytheon, so I can't risk having others steal my secret. Does it make sense?
Oh, yeah, I get it. And how many opportunities like that can you find?
Well, since I'm tracking hundreds of stocks, there's opportunities every single day. For example, let's look at Microsoft. It became a big AI player when it partnered with OpenAI, the developer of ChatGPT. Now, as you can see here, the money counter found one of those cycles in Microsoft, and it went up between October 3rd and November 10th almost every year for the past decade. So, Kim, armed with this information, what would you do on October 3rd?
You buy shares of Microsoft.
You buy shares. Had you done that and followed the dates on the calendar, you could have pocketed almost $2,000 in a little over a month. Google, another big AI player, is planning to invest $100 billion in AI. So it's another AI stock we track with the money counter. As you can see here, the calendar flagged another window of opportunity on May 3rd.
Okay, let me stop you for just a minute. Let me see if I get this right. This historical data shows that over the past 10 years, Google went up 90% of the time between May 3rd and June 1st. So you want to buy shares of Google during that period to bet that history will repeat itself.
Right, and that's exactly what happened. Again, you could have made almost $2,000 on this trade in, well, less than a month. Let's look at Tesla. Now, as you know, Kim, Tesla uses AI to power its self-driving cars. So it's one of those AI stocks I'm tracking. Had you followed the money counter, you would have known that this stock was likely to jump from May 12th to June 20th. That's because it's happened 9 in the last 10 years. So had you invested $10,000 in this trade, you could have pocketed more than $6,000 in a little over a month.
It's incredible. Most Americans don't even make that kind of money in a month. A 60% gain in a month? Well, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, normally the stock market only goes up about 10% a year. But here, you could have made 60% in just about a month, and that's the real beauty of the money counter. It's not like shares of Tesla have been booming. Had you bought shares of the company outside the counter, you'd actually be down more than 40%. So while buy and hold investors are losing money, if you had access to the counter, you could have taken advantage of that short-term cycle to make a quick 60% gain.
Yeah, I can definitely see the value in that. You're basically catching these short-term moves and you don't leave your money exposed to these collapses.
That's right. Sometimes you could spend years watching these stocks go nowhere. Look at AI chip company Taiwan Semiconductor. They actually make most of the AI chips in the world. But had you bought shares all the way back in 2021, you'd have made no money. On the other hand, had you followed the dates flagged in the money counter, you could have pocketed more than $3,000 in, again, a little over a month. Same story with another chip maker, Intel. Had you bought shares all the way back in 2017, you'd still be underwater to this day, almost 7 years later.
Really? So buy and hold investors have lost 7 years on this stock.
They have. And that's time they'll never get back. And it didn't have to be that way. For example, the money counter flagged one of those opportunities for Intel. Turns out, for the past decade, Intel went up every single year between March 10th and April 19th. Now, Kim, that's a pretty good historical success rate, right?
That's a perfect success rate.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, Kim.
No.
So instead of watching Intel go nowhere for years, you could have taken advantage of this short-term cycle to make almost $1,500 in about a month. Or look at AMD, another company that makes AI chips. Now, had you bought shares back in 2021, you're basically flat today. So imagine leaving your money around doing nothing for years and years, dead in the water. If you ask me, not a smart way to invest. You want to put your money to work for you, especially with this crazy inflation that we're seeing today, with the US dollar losing value practically every single day, which is why I use the calendar to help me find these opportunities to buy before these short-term booms and cash out in about 30 days. And you can just keep compounding your money. For example, in the case of AMD, the money counter flagged one of these cycles starting on May 2nd. And look what happened. That was another chance to walk away with an extra $3,400 in about a month. Now, of course, no system's perfect, and I won't always get it right, but you can see from these historical examples how the money counter can help me find these types of opportunities.
Yes. All right, Tom, I think I understand your strategy now, and it's all very exciting. So let me just do another quick recap for everyone watching this interview now. You believe we're going to see a buying panic in AI stocks, but you don't recommend anyone just buy and hold because history shows those tech booms always end in tears. Instead of buying and holding, you're recommending everyone follow these dates that you've identified with help from your money calendar software, because they're based on a historical win rate of at least 90%, and they give you a chance to profit in 30 days or so without leaving your money exposed to long-term volatility. Oh, and because you're tracking hundreds of stocks, your plan is to target these quick double-digit gains over and over again.
Kim, that's a perfect recap of everything we've discussed. And yes, you're not going to make 1,000% with these quick trades, but these quick double-digit gains can add up over time. I mean, just take a look at some of the examples I mentioned so far. Look at all the extra cash you could have made, and this is just a tiny snapshot of all the opportunities that are available with the money counter. Like I mentioned before, I'm tracking hundreds of stocks. So there's opportunities like this every single day.
Really exciting. So now that you've shared some results, I can see now why you've received countless notes from everyday folks across the country telling us how the money calendar has changed their lives. People like Jonathan B. from Okolona, Mississippi. He wrote in to say, the money calendar has been a godsend, hands down the best results. Kevin D. said, this money calendar is so powerful, I have never seen anything even close to it. Scott Z. sent us an email saying, your money calendar has changed my entire outlook on investing to the point where I can envision a much better future for my family. I think the results speak for themselves. And Tom, I know in just a moment you're going to share the names of your top 10 AI stocks for the coming buying panic completely free of charge. But before we get to that, I've got a question for you. Why do you think these cycles happen?
Well, remember that inventory software I helped develop for that home improvement center?
Sure.
Okay, so that was all based on historical buying patterns. So, for example, during spring, that store will obviously see a spike in demand for things like fertilizer, garden tools, and outdoor stuff. In the summer, they'll see a spike in ACs and grills. In the winter, they'll see spikes in snow blowers, shovels, ice melt. And when we're in storm season, they'll see spikes in things like generators. So these are all repeatable buying patterns. Turns out, stock market has the same type of buying patterns. So if you think about it, the market's nothing more than a bunch of people buying and selling assets for whatever reason. And that tends to create several cycles in the market. For example, we have the so-called business cycle, when the entire economy expands and contracts into a recession. There's a presidential cycle, and that's where stocks tend to outperform in the third year of a president's term, just before the re-election campaign starts. We have a 6-month cycle where stocks tend to outperform from November to April. That's where the saying, sell in May and go away comes from. And like I showed you here today, each stock also comes with a short-term cycle, a repeatable period of 30 days or so when they tend to rise almost every year. The problem is these cycles are invisible to humans. You got to crunch millions of data points to find them. And it's impossible for a human to do that. That's why I built this proprietary software and hired a couple computer scientists to help me run it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's genius, really. I guess what you're saying is that these cycles are just a natural occurrence in the market.
Right. Now, I believe if something's happened in 9 of the last 10 years as a trader, you want to bet your money that history is going to repeat itself because of that 9% historical success rate.
Yes, I think you've proven to everyone here today that knowing these dates in advance could give you an edge in the market. And Tom, you said earlier that you're tracking hundreds of stocks. Are they all AI stocks?
No. This phenomenon actually happens across all market sectors and stocks. So it doesn't just focus on AI stocks. In fact, we've had great success in all types of stocks. Take a look at a few of the biggest winners on the money counter. As you can see here, we've targeted companies like Costco, Northrop Grumman, McDonald's, even the gold ETF, GLD. And in total, we're tracking 355 stocks across all market sectors. That's why there's always opportunities to profit, no matter what's happening in the market. As a matter of fact, that's why I had to be here today. So let me put this date on the screen once again, August 1st. The money calendar flagged a window of opportunity in a few explosive AI stocks beginning on that date. These are stocks that have gone up at least 9 times out of the last 10 years during that period. And after doing my own research and due diligence, I'm ready to recommend this trade.
Okay, I'm excited. So how can folks participate in that trade recommendation?
Okay, well, I just put a special report together with all the details. It's called 3 AI Stocks Set to Skyrocket in the Next 30 Days. Inside this report, I'll reveal the names, ticker symbols, and when to buy and sell these stocks. Couldn't be more straightforward.
That's perfect. And how can folks claim that report?
Well, got some more good news. Instead of just giving away this report, I like to keep in touch with everyone so I can share one new trading opportunity on average every single month. You see, Kim, up to now, I've shared only the money counter with just a few network of my followers. Today, I'm changing all that. I'm launching a new venture called Stock Cycles Trader, where I'll be sharing these opportunities with everyday folks. And everyone who's watching today will have the chance to join me right now. So as soon as you take a risk-free trial, you'll get access to the special report, 3 AI Stock Set to Skyrocket in the Next 30 Days, completely free of charge.
Amazing news, Tom. Can you explain how Stock Cycles Trader works?
Absolutely, Kim. So the first thing you should know is that we don't accept advertisers who are just trying to promote a particular stock. We're only beholden to our readers. That means that our business model only works if we show our readers how to make money. And the way it works is very simple. The first trading day of the month, I'm going to send a calendar to members with my #1 trade for the month. That's going to include the name of the stock and the day I recommend to buy and sell shares. And again, I only recommend stocks that have gone up at least 90% of the time historically during that short-term cycle. Now, that's not all. Every month, I'll also host an exclusive live meeting for members where I'll review the model portfolio, answer questions, and discuss what's happening in the markets. I could share even an extra trade or two based on the analysis of the money counter.
All right, so members will have a direct line of communication with you?
Absolutely. Now, while I can't give personalized financial advice, I'll be there to discuss the market and answer questions about our strategy. So anyone who joins me today will also automatically get my Stock Cycles Trader weekly updates. Now, in these alerts, I'll share with readers my most profitable patterns that I'm seeing in the markets. It could be opportunities around earnings season, or maybe a hot new sector that's booming, or a crashing sector that you should avoid. And of course, in these alerts, I'll give you constant updates about this AI boom. So you'll feel like you're looking over my shoulder. And you'll get these alerts for as long as I'm publishing them. Plus, I prepared a special course called the Stock Cycles Trader Video Crash Course. It's a 3-part video series that'll walk you through my entire strategy. I'll even tell you about a profit booster strategy that can help turn your double-digit gains into triple-digit gains, and I'll explain everything in that video course.
Wait a minute, Tom. I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. All the stuff you just mentioned, everything is included in the membership?
Absolutely, everything.
All right, folks, you're seeing on your screen right now everything you get when you join Tom today. You'll get access to everything the moment that you take a risk-free trial to Tom's new monthly research service, Stock Cycles Trader. When I say risk-free, it means there's zero risk to your subscription. You can take the next 90 days to try everything and decide later if it's right for you. Like Tom showed us today, if you had followed the money calendar, you could have made $1,796 in Microsoft, $3,200 in Nvidia, $3,024 in Taiwan Semiconductor, $3,400 in AMD, another $4,277 in Nvidia, and $6,330 in Tesla, all in about 30 days or so. Imagine how different your financial life would be if you had access to these types of opportunities every single month. For that reason alone, if we charged $1,000 for the subscription, it would be well worth it. But here's the good news for you. Tom is not publishing his research to rich institutional investors. He's publishing it to everyday folks like you. And for that reason, it won't cost you $1,000, not even $500. The retail price of Tom Gentile's Stock Cycles Trader is $299. That's per year, not per month. And it gets even better. Tom knows you probably don't know him yet. He understands he needs to earn your trust first. For that reason, he negotiated a special discount with his publisher. Today, you can join Tom and get access to everything you see on your screen for just $99. That's a $200 discount. That works out to about 26 cents a day. Just click on the button on your screen to get all the details of this offer. You'll get access to 12 months of Tom's best money calendar ideas. On the first trading day of each month, Tom will send you a calendar for that month with his #1 trade recommendation. You'll get the special report, 3 AI stocks set to skyrocket in the next 30 days. The Stock Cycles Trader Weekly Update, monthly live meetings with Tom himself, 3-part Stock Cycles Trader video crash course, access to Tom's model portfolio where you can see all of his current open recommendations, buy up to prices, and more. Click the button on your screen to get started, and you'll be able to review everything on our secure order form. Remember, this is a risk-free trial. It comes with a money-back guarantee, and that means you can take the next 90 days to test out Tom's Stock Cycles Trader at no risk to your subscription. And if during that customer satisfaction period you find that you're not getting information that could change your financial future, or for any reason at all, you can simply call our customer service team and cancel your subscription, and we'll give you a full refund. And we'll let you keep everything you've received as a subscriber at no charge. You can keep all the issues with the money calendars, you can keep all of the special reports, you can keep everything, and this means there's no risk to you at all. To get started, simply click on the button on your screen. I'm confident that once you see the quality of Tom's research, you'll ask yourself how you ever invested without it. And I say that because of all the notes I've seen from everyday folks who've already tried Tom's money calendar strategy. People like Eugene C., who said, Tom Gentile is the closest thing to a crystal ball as you can get. He's doing a very good job. Keep up the excellent work. Robert H. wrote in to report on his game-changing results. He said, the money calendar has given me a chance to breathe again and keep my 5-year-old in private Catholic school and my stepdaughter in medical school. Hands down, there is no comparison. No one can hit the money as consistently as Tom. Best money I ever spent. John P. says, money calendar is my bread and butter favorite. It's effective, straightforward, and it works. Thanks so much, Tom. And Troy R. said, I'm very close to retirement and my nest egg is not where it should be. The money calendar gives me the peace of mind knowing that in the next few years, I can now breathe a lot easier. Tom, it seems like people love your work and your money calendar. And after everything you've showed us, I can't blame them. But that begs the question, why are you making this so affordable? I mean, just one of your trade recommendations could pay for the subscription many times over.
Well, Kim, first of all, I know there's a lot of people out there struggling with this economy and the crazy inflation we're seeing. And I sincerely believe the money calendar could help folks make some extra money every single month. So I wanted to make this as affordable as possible. I come from humble beginnings, and yeah, I've made millions as a trader and entrepreneur, and I could just retire if I wanted to, but I'm not one of those elitists who look down on everyday folks because I started with nothing. I grew up in a working class town just outside Pittsburgh. My parents were both in the steel industry. And as I mentioned before, I started working as a forklift driver at a home improvement store. That's why I don't want the price of this subscription to be an issue. I want as many people as possible to access my money counter research. That's why I convinced my publisher to set a price that's just enough to cover the cost of keeping this page online. And remember, you don't have to decide right now. Take the next 90 days to decide. Read through all my research. Look at the money counter I'm going to send to you. Read the special report, 3 AI stocks set to skyrocket in the next 30 days. And get all the details, including the name and ticker symbols of these stocks. And then decide if it's not for you. No worries, you can get your money back and we can part as friends. And I'll let you keep everything. There's no risk to you. It's my way of saying thanks for giving it a try.
That's more than fair. It's really generous. All right, Tom, you promised to give us the names of your top 10 AI stocks. Can you cover that now?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so you can see the names of these stocks on the screen. These are all the top 10 AI stock companies that I'm tracking right now with the money counter. And I believe once the buying panic begins, they could go even higher. But remember, I don't recommend just buying and holding them. If you do that, you better make sure you have an idea when you're going to sell them. Otherwise, you could give all your gains back and walk away with some big losses, just like it happened back in the internet in the panic of 1999. That's why I recommend you get access to my money counter right away, so you know exactly what stocks to target and when to buy and sell those stocks.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think the money calendar can make things a whole lot simpler. So Tom, any last words?
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And I just want to put this date on the screen one more time because I want to emphasize that it's really important that you act before that date. Remember, that's when the next short-term profit cycle is starting for this explosive AI stock. If you don't act, you'll be left out. These are short-term cycles. They last about 30 days or so. So if you want to make the biggest gains possible, you need to get in at the beginning of the cycle. And like I said before, I believe most folks are going to walk away from this AI boom empty-handed because they won't know how to trade the coming buying panic. But you don't have to be one of them. With my research and the dates on the money counter, you know when to buy, you know when to sell, and you'll know exactly which AI stocks to target. Couldn't get any easier than that. Remember, I only recommend stocks that have gone up at least 9 of the last 10 years during these short-term cycles. That 90% historical success rate could give you an edge in this market. It's a big reason why I've been able to deliver hundreds of double and triple-digit gains. Everyday folks like you have already used it, and they've reported incredible success. Don't you think investing would be more straightforward if you could identify it weeks in advance, which days that certain stocks have gone up with a 9% historical rate of success? So, click on that button on your screen today to get started. I look forward to welcoming you to Stock Cycles Trader. Please just keep in mind, all investments carry risk. Past performance is no guarantee for future results, so you should never bet more than you can stand to lose. I want to thank you for watching, and Kim, thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Thank you, Tom. Folks, I just want to remind you one more time that today you do not have to make any type of long-term commitment. You can take the next 90 days to try everything at no risk to you. Once you take this risk-free trial, you'll gain immediate access to everything you see on your screen, including the special report, 3 AI stocks set to skyrocket in the next 30 days, monthly live meetings with Tom, weekly alerts, and the 3-part Stock Cycles Trader video crash course. And of course, every first day of the month, Tom will send you a calendar for that month with his #1 stock recommendation. Recommendations that have the same type of potential Tom showed us today. Remember, if you had followed his money calendar, you could have made $1,796 in Microsoft, $3,200 in Nvidia, $3,024 in Taiwan Semiconductor, $3,400 in AMD, another $4,277 in Nvidia, and $6,330 in Tesla, all in about 30 days or so. So don't delay. Click on that button to get started because time is of the essence here. Thanks so much for watching.